To let our fish shoot, we're going to need to give him a weapon first. So let's go find the spike that came with him, the bullet spike object, and just drag it right out into the scene. We're going to set this one up to be his projectile. We'll add a rigid body 2D first so that it can go flying around. We'll leave all the settings on default for now. And then we're going to add in another component that's going to be a collider. So we're going to need to find a collider 2D, but we want a polygon collider that'll allow us to make a collider that kind of matches up with our actual sprite here. I'm going to modify this by going into edit mode. If I expand out the polygon collider, I can hit the edit mode and you can see the green lines appear nice and bright, and click on the points and drag them right to where I want. I want 1 point there, one about there, one about there. I'm going to pull this one in just a little bit, and then I'm going to delete out those extra 2 points that I've got down here, the two at the bottom. So I'll go select element 3, hit delete, and select element 3 again, hit delete one more time. It looks like my elements got rearranged. That's okay though. I'm just going to drag this point right back over there. I've got a nice little triangle that should work well for my collider on this spike. I don't want it to go over the edge. It's just kind of staying right inside. I'm going to make sure that that's saved off. So we'll go to our bullet spike prefab, scroll up to the top, go to overrides and hit apply all. And now we need to add this into our pool manager. If we go to our game manager and pool manager, remember we've got a pool for our blaster shots, our explosions, and our cat bombs. Let's expand out the code a little bit more to also handle things like, well, our spikes. To do that, we're just going to take our cat bomb pool right here and duplicate it. We'll call this a spike pool. So we're going to create a class called, well, maybe we don't even need a spike yet. Let's just start with a return to pool, and we'll call this underscore spike pool. Now that we've got that, we should be able to copy all of the other places that are using cat bomb pool. So we'll just find them all, we'll hit Control F and hit enter to go to the next spot here. It looks like line 37 where we initialize it. We'll duplicate all of those lines. So I'll select them all, Control D, left arrow, enter, enter, and then we'll paste. So we've got our spike pool is going to be an I object pool. That was our type. Oh, no, it's an object pool, not an I object pool of return to pool. Oh, here I've got my type in the wrong spot. There we go. That's what we're looking for, an object pool of type return to pool. Now we don't want to return or instantiate a cat bomb prefab. We want a spike prefab. And then we're going to want to add in the spike pool as its pool. We'll have it return back out the shot, which seems right. We just need to generate the spike prefab as a return to pool object now. So let's generate the field for it. Make sure that it's right up here by our other prefabs. So I'll move that up, Control Shift Alt, and move my lines right up here. And we'll call this a return to pool, not spike pool, return to pool. So now we've got our spike prefab right below our cat bomb prefab. We've got our spike pool right below our cat bomb pool. And we've got the instantiation of our spike pool right below the instantiation of our cat bomb pool. The next thing we need is just a method to get a spike. So we'll add a public spike or return to pool because we haven't given this a class yet. Call it get spike. And we'll return back out the spike pool dot get. That's all we need. We'll generate our code, or do a quick build, not generate our code, with Control Shift B. And then we're going to need to go into the editor and actually assign our spike. So first thing we'll need to do is go to our bullet spike here, and we're going to need to add a return to pool script. And then we're going to need to assign that. So we'll make this into a prefab. We'll apply our prefab changes, get my words there, and hit select to go find that prefab. Then we'll go find our pool manager and add in the bullet spike right there, and then apply our pool manager prefab as well. So that applies across all of them. Now we've got a bullet spike that we should be able to spawn and instantiate in our attack method. Let's go back to our shoot spikes method now, and instead of doing a log, let's instantiate a bullet or a spike. We'll say var spike equals pool manager dot instance dot get spike. And then we'll just set that spike's position to our current position for now. So we'll say spike dot set position, or spike dot transform dot set position and rotation. We'll set it to our position, and let's just use a default rotation right now. So I think we'll just use quaternion dot identity. We're going to set rotations in a moment so that we can do a bit of a spread. But this should give us a spike, just a single one facing up. Let's go try it out. All right, here we are with our fish ready to shoot, but I think I want to delete out this first attack point before we do. So let's go find On my spline attack points, I've got this one at element 0, and I think if I go in here, can I delete this element array? Let's see. Ah, there we go. Right-clicking deletes it, and now I've got rid of that. I should be able to press play. Oh, do a little cough, and let's see if our spikes start spawning at the attack points. There we go. You can see spins, does a little spawn of a spike, does a spawn, does a spawn. So, and I think I might want to move those attacks forward just a little bit because the attack animation is so slow too. But that's looking good. The last step will just be to launch those things up. Now let's modify our shoot code to launch out multiple spikes. We're going to add a loop. We'll do a for loop, and we'll go from 1 to, let's call this underscore spike count. I'll generate a field for that, and I think I'm going to default it to a value of 5. So we'll get 1 spike up and then 2 off each direction off to the side. Now we're going to, inside of that loop, do our spawning and setting position. So I'm just going to move those up into the loop. Let's cut and paste. But the position or the orientation is going to vary based on which spike it is. If it's the first one, I want to go kind of like off to the left and then a little bit more straight, and then straight up and down, and then to the right, and then more to the right. So we're going to need to get that angle. We'll say var angle equals, and here we'll use I minus, and we want to use half of our spike count. So spike count divided by 2. So we'll start off with a negative number, and then we'll go up to a positive number that's halfway at the bottom of spike count, and then halfway above or halfway to spike count. So we'll get a -2, a -1, a 0, a 1, and then a 2. Those are the values that we should expect to see. Next, we want to use that and multiply it by some spread offset. So we'll say var offset equals spread times angle. We'll generate a variable for that spread. Let's call this underscore spread, and we'll make that a serialized field. I'm going to set this to 15. And we could use floats here, but I'm just using ints to keep things somewhat steady on my my angles and values there. It could be a float though. There's no reason for it to necessarily be an int here. So we've got our offset now, and then we need to give that some like base origin. So 0 would be off to the right, and we're probably going to want to go off to the, or start at like a -90 or a 90. So we'll say var final angle equals underscore origin, which will make a variable, plus offset. We'll generate a field for that origin as well, and we'll just leave that at 0 for now. We'll be able to adjust that inside the inspector. Now that I've got my final angle, we'll use quaternion.euler. We'll give it a 0 for the x, a 0 for the y, and then pass in our final angle on that z so that we're rotated the right way. And then we want to, need to add that closing parentheses there. We also want to give some force to our spike. So we're going to do spike dot get component, and we'll get the rigid body 2D, and we're going to set its velocity equal to its right direction, so spike dot transform dot right times some fire speed. So let's call this fire speed, and this will be how fast it's going to actually launch it. We'll generate a serialized field for that as well, and I'm going to set this to like a 5. It might be a little bit too high, but we can just adjust it right in there. All right, I think that we're done. We just need to go back into Unity real quick, make sure that our fish spike is set up right and not set to a 0.5 on the cleanup. Let's go find that real quick. Bullet spike. And our delay right here, and make sure this return to pool is cranked up a little bit higher than 0.5. We don't want it to just disappear instantly. That's how we had it for our explosions and stuff. And we also want to make sure that gravity scale is off. And I'm even going to freeze rotation on this so that our rigid bodies here don't start spinning around. We don't get some weird spikes. It should either disappear when it hits something or kill something or go through things. Before I press play, the last change I want to make is I'm going to turn this origin to 90 so that my spikes shoot up and don't start just spawning inside of the lava or shooting down into the lava. So let's see. I'll press play. Go back over to that scene view. We should expect to see, there we go, our spikes are firing up. They are hitting the platform, but that's just because we haven't set them to a layer where they can't, and they should be able to go up and now almost kill the player. Let's finish that off so that they can kill the player. We'll go back to our bullet spikes. I'm going to adjust this by adding a script that kills player, so we'll put the damage player. script right on there so that it'll hurt our player when it hits them. And then we're going to change the layer of this. So I'm going to go to layers. We'll add a new layer. I'm going to call this spikes. This would be my spike layer for all of the spike related things. It'd probably be like an enemy projectile layers would be like a better, more generic name for it. But if change that over to spikes, we'll apply the override here, and then we'll go into our settings again. Remember, it's under project settings, and then we got to go find our physics 2D, and then there's the layer collision matrix. We'll make sure that spikes only collide with players, not even with other spikes. There we go. Save our project off, and now only our players should be hit by the spikes, and we'll just go verify that that's the case. So we should see our spikes go flying through, shooting right through, looking good. And if I get my player over there, let's just see if I can make it. Oh, almost made that jump. Oh, let's go bouncing on some frogs. See if we can get all the way over to the spikes and then let the spikes do some damage. Ah, if that cat doesn't kill me first. Oof. All right. Yeah, I got a spike that's still sitting there on the ground. Oh, no. Okay. Let's just move our player over there and just go verify it one more time. Benefit of having editor access, we'll just go bam, drag our player right over here, press Control P, and we should be able to see the spikes actually working and hitting our player. Bam. Okay, there we go. Spikes hit me, took some damage, and it's a bit of a challenge. I do think the last thing I want to do to make this a little bit more manageable, though, for my actual player is just crank up the follow size just a little bit. So in our multiplayer camera setup, we've got our target group, and I'm just going to crank up the radius here too. Let's maybe make it about 5 and unpause. There we go. Now I can see the world below me. Ah, it's interesting watching the ground move, but the spikes staying in the same place. It makes it seem like the spikes are doing something weird, but it's really just the ground. Ah, moving along. All right, that's looking good. I'm going to go into plastic and commit. Spikes, damage player, and launch at variable directions.